Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of the Online Presenters Toastmasters Club has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches. However, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, we welcome you to apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it displays your name and role. Hover over your video, right-click, and select Rename to do so. Please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. As a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. And now, please help me welcome our club president, Marianne Grady, to the virtual stage.
Well, thank you, Sunny. Before we get started, I'll just remind everybody that Online Presenters serves those who give online presentations professionally or aspire to do so. So if you need to present online, you're in the right place. Now, today, I didn't really go with the theme so far, so sorry, Joni, I'm leaving that to you. But what I did find online was at the 8th Annual Convention of Toastmasters in San Jose, California, on August 12th, 1939. I'm going to read you a little something. It's called In Defense of Free Speech. Whereas the rights to freedom of speech, of assembly, and of conscience as guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States and by the state documents of other democratic nations are vital to the perpetuation of human liberties, and whereas the Toastmaster clubs as non-political and non-partisan groups of open-minded, truth-seeking men are ideally situated for the defense of the individual rights of free citizens. And whereas Toastmasters International recognizes its privilege to exist in a social and political state where the rights to freedom of speech and of assembly are guaranteed, therefore be it resolved that we, the representatives of Toastmasters International, in convention assembled, acknowledge our special responsibility to interpret, promote, and protect the inherent rights of free men and free society, that we pledge ourselves to encourage all men to cultivate habits of honest and independent thinking, combined with fearless and straightforward speaking, and tolerant and analytical hearing of the opinions of others, so that by the free exchange of the ideas and experiences, civilization may be advanced and the evils of tyranny, oppression, and social and economic injustice be banished from the earth. I thought that was a pretty cool thing for 1939. And, obviously we've added women to the list, but, back then that was a pretty strong statement. So I enjoyed reading it, and I just thought I'd share that with you today. We do have a terrific meeting ahead of us. Our Toastmaster of the day is the indomitable Joni Laidlaw. So please put your hands together for Joni.
Thank you, our President, Marianne. The first time humans found fire, we thought, yep, this is the beginning. And ever since then, we've evolved. Now we're in a brand new world. It's artificial intelligence, robotics, cyborgs. Who knows where we're headed? Today, we'll be looking over the evolution of technology, looking back from where we came and hopefully questioning, well, maybe where we'll be headed. To take us through the meeting, though, we have some awesome rules. After all, if you're going to evolve, you have to consider all the things that have occurred. Now, for our first presenter of our meeting, we have a tip of the day. Now, this is unique to our club, and I'm going to ask for our presenter today, Sunny Fridge, our Sergeant at Arms, to give us our tip of the day.
Thank you. I'm hearing some feedback. Okay, there. Great. Imagine standing before an audience, confident and poised, knowing that every word you say will resonate. Now, what if I told you that an AI coach could help you achieve that level of confidence without ever leaving your home? John Powell once said, communication works for those who work at it. And in a world where every word counts, Udly AI is here to ensure your communication skills are polished and powerful. So I want to know by a show of hands, how many of you have heard of Udly? I think thanks to our ambassador, Joni Laidlaw, definitely we know about it. I'm also privileged to be a Udly advisory coach, and I get to hear about the latest things coming down the pike for Udly. But today I'd like to quickly share some of the ways that we can use Udly. You may see this better if you're in the view of, what's it called? Multi-view, possibly. I hope that you can see this screen wide enough for me. And I'm here at udly.ai. In case you did not know, Udly is that AI, artificial intelligence, that helps use analytics to give you information to become a better communicator. And if you did not know, when you sign up for that free account, I would love for you to take a look at practice. You can role play. If you're going for that job interview, if you have a big speech coming up, if you even wanted Udly to come into your next meeting and no one else would know, it could give you information about whether you should go faster, slower, or stop using so many filler words. Today, I am going to take a look at presentation and I'm going to take a look at interview. What I did just a little while ago was I recorded what it looks like because I didn't have enough time to show you everything. What I can tell you though, however, is let me just do this. I'm going to do interview. When you go to interview, so that you know, it's going to give you the option to personalize your interview. I put in the words presentation skills coach, but had I not done that, you could put whatever your information is. They have other topics or titles, education, software, engineering, and you can put that to customize your interview that AI is going to ask you questions. You can do a generic company. If it doesn't work for you, if it's not Google or Adobe or Amazon, you can ask the interviewer to be professional, friendly, technical, behavioral, and others. And so I did that, and I guess I could just do it. Here we go. Let me know.
What tools or technologies do you recommend to your clients for enhancing their presentations?
Yes, I recommend certain tools for them to enhance presentation by making sure if they're doing virtual to make sure they have a webcam. Look at the background. You only want your audience to see what you want them to see. If there are chords going on, if you've got that cat like Tressa, or if you have something else going on in the background, you could also do a background that would sort of just hide all of that. Those are just a few things that I would do. Then I click next question.
Can you elaborate on how you help clients optimize their virtual backgrounds for professional presentations?
Yes. One of the ways that I help clients optimize their virtual backgrounds for professional presentations is making sure that they have enough light in the background. Because if you don't do that, a lot of times the background that you see If you raise your hands, it will key out into the background. So you want to make sure that you have lights. You also want to make sure that whatever you have as a virtual background doesn't block a triangle view of you. So there's nothing growing out of your head like a plant, or there is nothing that's going to make the audience look more at the background than you. And last question.
Can you describe a time when you successfully helped someone overcome a fear of public speaking?
Last week, I did a third coaching session for a client of mine who happens to be my husband's niece, but she just got her own book of poetry out. And I quickly gave her a couple of sessions. At first, she had her notes and she was looking to the left. Her background just had lights and just books and a lot of just unneeded information in the background. I helped her clean up her background, get more vocal variety as she spoke, and made sure that when she said she was going to read the book, that she had the book in front of her. That was a transformation. And this week, she is going to be doing her first official podcast. So that was a way that I did transformation. So I'm going to stop there. This is where Udly comes in, and it would have an analysis of how fast I was going, how slow I was going. And it looks like it's already ready. So I'm going to show you that there is coaching here. It will give me information, and it will tell me that I highlighted some key information. It told me my summary. Let's look. If you have a cap like Tressa, I guess it's just giving me some of the ways I could be more concise. When I click on analytics, it tells me that I had 2 likes. I did not have any non-inclusive words. I had 10 weak words. Oh, that's interesting. Just, so, sorta, you see. There are times when so can be good, but what you need to do is look at the analytics and see if it makes sense. What could have gone better? It tells me I said 40% more than I needed to. Try getting to 30% instead, and checking out a sample rephrasing if it comes up would be helpful. I know another way is when you look at your transcript that magically appears, if you press this magic wand, it will give you a way to rephrase concisely. So instead of maybe saying, I did a third coaching session for a client, I had a third coaching session with my husband's niece who just published her own poetry book. So, and if I didn't like that, I could ask it to do it again. It gives you a copy of your transcript, everyone. So I encourage you to try it out. What I did do earlier, also really quickly in my Udlys, I also did a role play, finding clients. Would that be it? Yes, a role play. This is pretty lovely because someone asks me questions. She actually came on.
Hello there, Agnes Potts speaking. I'm excited to chat with you today. What can I do for you?
I'm interested in learning more about getting clients for my coaching business.
Oh, coaching. That's fascinating. I'm always eager to hear about different businesses. What kind of coaching do you do? And what's been your biggest challenge in getting clients so far?
I do presentation skills, and again, it still does the same thing. And you get to see Agnes's face or whoever your AI will be, but it gives coaching. It talks about what I may have done well. It gives those analytics. It tells how fast and slow I went and how my pacing was. This can help you as you try to be more concise during an interview. So I encourage you, if you haven't tried it, to leverage the power of AI to help you become a better communicator if you're role playing, going for a job interview, and much more. Udly.ai. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Now, that was a very, very detailed tip of the day. And I know that there are questions, but the beauty of it is you can drop them in the chat and you can respond accordingly based on that for just 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe we should have a Udly Ed feature. We already have the people here to sort that out. And I know we'll be able to answer all our questions then. we've evolved to artificial intelligence. You've heard it on the tip of the day. As we evolve, we do have to evaluate. And based on that, we have a team here today. The first member of our evaluation team will be our timer. Our timer, could you please let me know what will you be doing for our meeting?
Thank you, Toastmaster Joni. Tonight, I will be timing the speeches as well as table topics. And the whole purpose of that is to keep us on time and to make us have that reverence for time. Our speakers today, we have 2 speakers and they will be 5 to 7 minutes each. Oh, I need to be plugged in. Oh my goodness. 5 to 7 minutes each. And my evaluators will be 2 to 3 minutes each. So at the beginning of the speech, when we get to be 5 minutes for the 5 to 7, we'll have the green light, then the yellow light at 6 minutes, and then the red light at 7 minutes. And then for the evaluations, we'll have the green light at 3 minutes, yellow light, the green light at 2 minutes, yellow light at 2.5, and then the red light at 3 minutes. Now, table topics will be 1 to 2 minutes. Back to you, General Evaluator, while I find my cord.
Thank you, Madam Timer, for that and for explaining your role. Well, I guess this is why we need help in our evolution. I think I forgot. No, I didn't. Our counter, Carolina Ramirez, will explain one of her multiple roles today, or maybe both. As our counter and vote counter, what will you be doing?
I'll be the counter tonight. My role as a counter is to count the correct words and filler words that could undermine your message and distract your audience. Words such as and so, etc. And my role as a vote counter is to count your votes for your favorite prepared speaker, your favorite evaluator, or your favorite impromptu speaker. I will put a link in the chat, and through that link, you can vote for your favorite. And at the end of the meeting, I will give you my report. Back to you, Joni.
Thank you, Carolina. Now, if it's ChatGPT or maybe Udly, it also helps to see if we're connecting effectively with our accent when we speak. And as such, our grammarian today will be Sherry Blake. Sherry, could you go ahead and explain to us your role as grammarian and introduce the word of the day?
My role as grammarian is to just keep track of word usage, good and bad, how we are using the English language. And like I said, just doesn't always have to be bad language. It can also be good language, good phrasing of words. Today, the word of the day is meticulous. Meticulous means, hold on 1 second. So I have my sentence here. Oh, geez, where is it? I'm gonna move down, sorry. Okay, well, meticulous means showing attention to detail. So a sentence is, and it's an adjective, a sentence is, my meticulous planning played a role in creating a fun and fantastic vacation. Again, the word is meticulous. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you for that, but my ADHD will not allow me to be meticulous. So I learned to keep people around me who are. Next to the virtual space, we have a role that is special for online presenters, our watcher. Andrew, let us know what you'll be doing.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the day. I'm a watcher for this club tonight, And especially this goes for our guests, Phoebe and Joseph. Hi, Phoebe. It's really good to see you here. This role, what I'm going to do tonight, very special for online club, online presenters. I will be watching your backgrounds, how you look, how is the light shine up. And of course, I'll try to incorporate into my evaluation a little talk at the end of the meeting what Dr. Sani Fritsch recommended already. And thank you, Dr. Sani, for making my job even easier. So we'll be looking at your backgrounds and come back to you at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you for explaining your role so aptly. We've evolved to be online. Now, in person, when I really want to say something, I have to really keep it to myself, and it would only show on my face. Fortunately, if time's up or we have a comment we really don't want to forget and we want to be meticulous about communicating, we have the chat. But if you're going to be in the chat, there has to be someone to, well, monitor it. And today, our chat monitor is Distinguished Toastmaster Andrew Burns. Distinguished Toastmaster Burns, could you let us know what you'll be doing? We're not hearing. Would you prefer to put it in the chat? Or the most said phrase online? You're muted.
I'm sorry. Force of habit to kill my audio. What do you want me to do? The chat monitor? All right. The role of the chat monitor is to observe what goes into the chat. If people are following chat etiquette, which means that you're not busily typing away when someone's speaking a prepared speech, and to identify good information that everyone should be aware of and report back when called upon during the general evaluation section.
Thank you for so aptly explaining what a chat monitor will do. Also a meticulous role, because there is a lot that happens in the chat. The person who explained to me what a side rule is for, do I get it? Still no. However, I get the opportunity to learn something else. Writing your TED Talk is the title of his actual speech that he'll be doing today. Now, a TED Talk is different from writing a Toastmaster speech. I know we're all waiting with a bated breath to find out what these differences are. Please help me welcome Advanced Toastmaster Gold. We're talking about evolution. This was back in the day. The old school Toastmasters before Pathways. I think before what was before Pathways, or before it was before. We're evolving. Please help me welcome Jim Barber, writing your TED Talk.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters. As many of you know, several weeks ago, I participated in a TEDx event. And since then, a number of people have asked me about it, and I'm going to try to answer some of those questions this evening. Now, this requiring a complete discussion on TEDx would take far more than 5 to 7 minutes that I've got tonight. So tonight I'm going to focus on one particular thing, which is how to write your TEDx speech. I'm assuming that you've already got your idea, that you've already found a place to give your TEDx presentation, you've applied, you've been accepted, and you're ready to go. Well, how do you write your TEDx speech? First of all, you need to recognize that the target audience for your TEDx speech is different than the target audience that you're expecting at Toastmasters. Here at Toastmasters tonight, the target audience are you, my fellow members of online presenters. My secondary audience would be those people that are watching on video. But again, you're participating, you're a member, but you're just not here at the present time. In other Toastmaster clubs, it's generally the same thing. Your audience is are the members of the club, or in a contest, your target audience are the judges that in the contest. With TEDx, your target audience is the YouTube video. You want to get your presentation on YouTube. And if you don't do that, basically the whole effort falls apart. So that is your target audience. That is who you are aiming for. That makes a difference in several ways. For example, one thing about your TEDx presentation is that your presentation must be standalone. It must be independent. You cannot refer to, well, for example, the weather. You cannot refer to current events. You cannot refer to other people. In my Toastmasters presentation, my Toastmasters speech tonight, I could make reference to Joni's introduction or something like that. But keep in mind, with a TEDx presentation, someone is going to be listening, hopefully, to your TEDx video 3 years from now, and possibly in another country. They're not going to know anything that's going on around it. So everything that you discuss must be self-contained, self-referenced within the TEDx talk. And you can't refer to anything outside of that without explaining what it is. Another thing, another portion, an extension of this is your physical audience. They are not your primary audience, but they are there. You cannot get your physical audience involved in your presentation. It's a common technique. We use it quite a bit to ask people for a show of hands. Who here has done this? Who here has seen that? But you don't see that on video. It won't show up on your TEDx video when it gets to YouTube. So you can't ask questions of the audience. You can't respond to the audience. You can't point out a particular member of the audience, and you cannot ask for a show of hands, anything like that. Again, anybody watching your TEDx video must get the complete story, and without needing to know anything that's going on outside of your presentation. And this all comes down to how you write your presentation. Another consideration is timing. I'm working under the timing constraints of Toastmasters tonight, talking within 5 to 7 minutes with a 30-second deviation. TEDx and TED both have a timing constraint of 18 minutes maximum. No deviation. 18 minutes and 1 second, and you will not get posted on the YouTube video. They are incredibly strict about that. Since it is very difficult to predict exactly how fast you're going to talk and that sort of thing, I recommend that you not come anywhere close to 18 minutes when you are writing your speech. Write your speech at most for maybe 15 minutes, and that gives you lots of wiggle room so you don't have to sweat going over. However, another consideration is you'll notice I didn't mention a minimum, and there is none. If you can get your idea across in 3 or 4 minutes, good for you. That is wonderful. Generally, the shorter the better, because you're not going to lose people's attention. So keep your speech as short as you possibly can. Don't worry about it being too short. There is no minimum requirement, but there is a maximum requirement, and you have to, again, factor that in to your presentation. Now that brings us down to writing your presentation. It is a common Toastmasters practice to work from an outline. For example, that's what I'm doing this evening. I have my speech outlined, but I haven't written it out word for word. You can't do that with TEDx. You do need to write your speech out word for word. The reason is not immediately obvious. It deals with, for example, it has an association with the US election. Some of you may have noticed we have an election year going on this year in America, in the United States. And if you're not in the United States, you've probably heard a little something about it. I think it is a worldwide phenomena that candidates for political offices occasionally evade telling the complete truth. They don't always say exactly the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And so we have fact checkers. The problem is with political statements, the fact checking is done after the fact, and so it doesn't really do a whole lot of good. TED avoids that problem by fact checking your speech before you give it. Now, the only way, of course, that they can fact check it before you give it is for you to write it and then turn in your speech, have them go through it, fact check it, make sure that everything looks good, and then approve it. Of course, that doesn't do any good if you don't stick to the script. So you do need to memorize your presentation before you get out there and you give your presentation. Now, it's not true that you have to give exactly the presentation that you said that you would do. But think about what they're doing here. If you deviate from your presentation in any way, they have to go back and fact check what you said as compared to what you wrote originally. That slows down the whole process of getting your video out. And as we said, getting the video is your ultimate objective. I'm running out of time. I'm down to my 18-minute mark. And so I got to cut it quit at this point. Talk to you later. Madam Toastmaster.
I don't think that was a very meticulous wrap up, but at least you honored the fact that you need to be on time. So quite a practical demonstration for us. Our next speaker is our Vice President of Public Relations. So she is doing her Strategic Relations Level 2 Learning Your Style project. Now, our speech will focus on multiple aspects of cross-cultural working style. Spin, sedentary, and build slum territory. And you know what? I'm going to do the same thing with her name. Please help me welcome Kirthikka to our virtual space.
Thank you, Yoni. Have you ever been abroad and been there for a while for your personal visit or on a work basis? Can any of you raise your hands? Nobody has been abroad out of your hometown? Yes, of course, of course. There would be. If not had a chance to move out of your hometown, you would definitely wish to move out at least once in your lifetime to experience something called culture. Okay, let me here speak about something which we haven't explored so far when we are in a cross-cultural environment. We generally think of money, especially currency, commutation needs, food, and what else? Something like people around you, how are they going to be? Really? The language with which you would be able to converse with them, the climatic condition. And I wouldn't deny that these aren't significant. But the most striking thing that we forget is understanding and reviewing their culture before you move into a place which is not your native, especially abroad. Loosely, culture is defined as that makes you anything that you are today. There is a famous saying or a famous quote from one of the popular journalists, American journalist, Walter Lippmann, who states, culture is the name what people are interested in. What are their thoughts? What do they want to hear? What are their models? What do they aspire for? And what do they wish to become? These two statements seems to be a little contradictory, but they aren't completely to be denied or they aren't completely to be accepted. It differs by instance at some point in time as well as place to place. Let me explain you how it goes. There is a business meeting and you are asked to bring your family. Few culture or few geographic region sees this and perceives it in a different way. You are introducing your family to your business partners. At times, for example, you discuss with your manager about the set of commitments that you have so that he allocates a right level of work to you. Say, for example, again, similarly, it is also considered normal to know more about your dependents. These sort of conversations are considered to be little offensive in few culture, in few geographic regions. There is a feather-lined gap between understanding what a culture in a geographic region and how you're going to differentiate between your work and private life, how they are intertwined. Let's take a different scenario. How do you perceive your time? The perception of time. People in different geographic regions are tagged by the way that they perceive time. Say, for example, you're handling an online virtual meeting. You are eating as well. Suddenly you get a phone call, and at the same time, your baby is crying. You're managing everything perfectly and meeting the deadlines. This is considered as offensive sometimes. Not offensive exactly. This is considered as not desirable. Actually, thanks to pandemic, it got us all together to understand different cultures at the same point in time, evaluating each one of us who stay apart. In a cross-cultural meeting, what do we discuss? We discuss about something like we fix stringent timelines, we derive a decision, or we prolongate, jumping from one subject to another, knowing each other. These two types of conversation are completely different. Being specific or being inclusive is determined by the way that you take the culture and adapt on a daily basis. There are certain really risk factors considered in adapting the cultural differences, in knowing the cultural differences and adapting the culture. Say, for example, joining an individual in the name to understand their culture is rupturing their rudimentary ethics. Holding grudges, understanding the differences, building a political scenario out of knowing the cultural difference is also one another risk factor. Bottom line, what I learned in my whole life is, I believe following a specific oriented culture, which means I should separate out what is work and what is my life, and the interwindings that needs to be differentiated between different set of people with each cultural background that I deal with. The best learning is difficult to build trust, but it is quite easy to break. What are you supposed to do? I don't generally trust anybody if I don't like their culture or if I don't understand their culture. This straight away hits the credibility, and it will also create an environment that you don't respect. Oh my God. Active listening and culturally being fit is quite important to become an effective leader. And I think that builds great team, great organization, as well as great relationships. Over to you, Yoni.
Thank you, Kirthikka, for giving us a look into what it's like to deal across cultures, especially considered that we are a club that has evolved to being online, which gives us the opportunity to have people from many places around the world. And Sunny, can you say that phrase that we have in the beginning about how we interact? We have members and
Yes.
from all over the world.
All
Yeah,
over
that
the
phrase.
world. Yes, yes. Don't know it by heart, but because we have members and guests from around the world, we have to be mindful of terms that may be offensive to that culture.
Thank you. Moving on to my favorite part of the meeting. I'm Toastmaster of the day, so I might get excluded, which makes me even more happy about it being my favorite part. Please help me welcome our table topics master today, Teresa Saldivago.
Great job with the pronunciation. Woohoo! So I am working with another club, and I've got a survey that I'm going to be sending out to our members, and I would love to get some feedback from you and hear your take on some of these questions as well. And so I'm wondering, what type of professional speaking are you currently engaged in? As a professional and an advanced speaker, how are you applying your speaking skills outside of Toastmasters? Andrea, I'm curious about you.
Excuse me, Trust, is it me?
Yes.
Well, exactly. I kind of had a feeling that I would be the person that you would ask that kind of question. And of course, the way we apply, or the way I apply the skills from Toastmasters is doing regular Facebook Lives for my Facebook business page subscribers. I do it regularly, once a week. I skipped a few. However, keeping the audience entertained and engaged, looking into a black screen and just seeing the numbers, I found it really, really hard before I joined Toastmasters. Now I can imagine and I build the audience in front of my eyes that I imaginary engage, and with hand gestures and playing them games and explaining, just getting into the role. And just really help with my mindset when I need to do the online presentation, thinking, right, I have done it before. I've done it with Toastmasters. When I want to apply something new that I learn for my audience, again, in a speaking, nice and relaxed manner, I do it, practice. So there are many ways that I can see that the benefits of what I learn at online presenters. And recently, I just have that badge. I'm a vice president of membership, so I can engage with members on that level as well. I can see perhaps Carrie Kong. Hi, Carrie. How are you doing? It's good to see you again.
Hi.
So, yeah, there are quite a few things I really like to bring. For example, now it's a skill of, in the middle of my table topics, I just call up a few people like Carrie Kong, hi, how are you? So that's a bit of spontaneous thinking, is what I like about table topics, and how it helps me with life. Back to you, Teresa.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I noticed that professional speaking takes on a number of different ways, whether you're speaking at a conference, whether you're training at work, whether you're a trainer for Udly, hat tip to Jody, and it takes on, and YouTube and doing other things like that. I've got a friend of mine who has a TikTok channel. So these days, how we're applying our professional speaking skills takes on a number of different directions. And I'm just curious, like, how are you currently using it? And what is your wish? Do you want to do a TED Talk? Do you want to speak on stage? Do you want to get paid for speaking? What is your aspiration when it comes to being a professional speaker? Miss Sherry Blake.
Well, thank you so much for that question, Teresa. I do want to become a professional speaker, and I don't feel as though I am, right? For me, when you are labeled as a professional, that means to me that you're getting paid. And right now, I am not getting paid to speak. And to be honest, I'm not speaking anywhere outside of Toastmasters. But I would like to become a professional. I would love to give a TED Talk. At this moment, I don't feel that I'm ready for a TED Talk, but I do feel that I'm ready to compete within Toastmasters, which I have. I didn't win, I didn't go all the way, but I'm going to keep trying. I love to inspire people. A lot of times when I write a speech and I deliver it, it's typically an inspirational speech, or it has some sort of inspiration, some sort of meaning, a way that it can touch people. And that's what I like to do. When I'm listening to a speaker, I like to feel all warm and fuzzy. I like to maybe shed a tear. And that's what I would want to do for those who are listening to me. So what I'm going to just keep doing to get to that professional level is practice, 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 keep attending phenomenal clubs like this. And I'm so happy that I found you all, because this is one of my favorite clubs, because it's really helping me to grow and advance. So yes, hopefully one day I'll be able to do a TED Talk. I'll be able to compete in a Toastmasters contest and go pretty far up the chain. Who knows? So I look forward to that. And I'm going to continue to be meticulous at the topics that I decide to speak on. And maybe one day you'll see me on YouTube. Thank you so much, Teresa. Back to you.
Oh, Sherry, I'm going to get that word meticulous in. That was fantastic. And I love that too. One of the things that I'm also thinking about is the difference between a speaker and a thought leader. So there are speakers who talk about a topic, and then there are people who lead with their thoughts. And I think that's really important. Like, what are you putting out into the world? And are you, like being a motivational speaker, or, shaping the thoughts and minds and hearts of people? How are you thinking about yourself in that capacity? Miss Sunny.
Teresa, I'm going to defer to maybe asking one of the guests. You can go ahead and ask them that question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Andrew. Oh, sorry. Yeah. We have one guest. I'll get to him next.
Yes.
How do you think about your thought leadership as a speaker?
It all is about context. You'll notice if you look in the chat, I posted a document that I'd run across that talks about TED Talks, and it lists the top 24 TED Talks that will change your life. And if you go to that listing, you can go through the TED Talk site, locate the talk that they have, and you can see what qualified as TED Talks that change your life. For new Toastmasters, for example, I encourage everybody to go to Amy Curry, Curry, talk. She's from Harvard. She's a psychologist, and she does a lot of focus on her talk about the use of body language and what does that mean. When you talk about body language and how your body language improves your communication, going to one of her TED Talks and listening to it is a great example that explains that whole structure. There are other TED Talks that talk about other things that we profess to do in Toastmasters, and it gives you a different perspective of how to do that. Some of them are funny. For example, we'll talk about the change in speech and tone and pace, and they'll put up a tape of Robin Williams when he was alive, God bless him. And he really is able to generate a lot of humor out of context, out of change up in speech, out of changing pitches and changing voices. It's hard to explain that to somebody that's brand new, but if you haven't watched the Robin Williams tape, they get right away what you're talking about. So those are some of the things that I would do and think about. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic. I love studying other really skillful speeches, and I look at them now about what is it that made that so good? How can I learn from what they did and start applying that into my own speaking? So that's fantastic. And so we have a guest. Would you like to answer a question? Fabian, I'm curious to know where you are on your speaking journey and where you want to go as a result of your speaking journey. Saw you come off mute, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Awesome. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I'm curious to know where you are on your speaking journey and where you want to go.
Okay. On my speaking journey, I think I am now at that getting there, because the reason why I became a Toastmaster is because I wanted to enhance my speaking journey. And when I was small, one day I had to take part to say a poem at my church. And I practiced that poem so many times. And I went on that stage. And before they pulled those curtains, I was so excited to see that poem. When they pulled that curtains and I saw all of those people looking at me, I started to sweat. And I run right off that stage. I went to the back and I started to cry. And because of that fear for stages, I wanted to become a public speaker. I wanted to be better at what I do and on how I speak to persons, because I believe that whatever comes out of your mouth is a good impression of who you are. And right now, I am trying to join as much Toastmasters Club, participate in as much activities that I can so that I can enhance my speaking. I'm very meticulous of how I structure my speeches so that I would able to impact lives whenever I speak also. And I think at the moment, I am very encouraged where I am in my public speaking. Thank you.
That's exciting. One of the things that I did to get over my stage fright was when I did a TEDx talk and I put a picture of the stage with the audience in front of me as my screensaver on my computer. So I saw it every day and I started getting used to being in front of an audience and having that perspective every day. So it really helped a lot. That is all we have for Table Topics questions today. Joni, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that Table Topics experience. Quite meticulous when it came to the questions being asked. Now, our meticulous timer, I'm going to see how many times I can say that word today, has placed the times in the chat. But Madam Timer, please tell us how our speakers, as well as for Table Topics and prepared speeches, did today.
All of our speakers, as well as our table topic speakers, were good within time.
And I know our vote counter dropped in the chat, the way you can vote for your favorite speaker. We're moving on to the part where we get evaluated. Please assist me in welcoming to the virtual space as I turn the meeting over to our general evaluator, Marianne Grady.
Hi, good evening again, everybody. So happy to be with you as your general evaluator. The general evaluation portion of the meeting is when we give the gift of feedback. We kind of look at what we've done for the night and we want to make sure that we're learning from it. So people will give you their perspective and you can decide if that works for you or not. But we have skilled evaluators and I think we'll all learn a little bit from them. So our first evaluator tonight is immediate past president David Carr, and he will be evaluating Jim Barber's speech. Please welcome David Carr.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and especially Jim Barber. Jim, we were talking a little bit in the pre-meeting, and you said that one of your skills you thought was to be able to explain things and explain things simply. I think you did that tonight. You gave us a demonstration of that. You meticulously went through the things that distinguish a TED Talk speech from a Toastmasters speech. And that's an important framing device too, is that you're paying attention to your audience, what they already know, and you're bridging between what they know and what they need to know in order to execute this successfully. So I'm supposed to come up with something to tell you that you could do better. So I'll get that out of the way right now. I guess the one thing that jumped out at me that you probably can do better is to avoid the, oh, I see I have a red timing light. I will wrap up now. And I think we've all done that from time to time, but I always think it's sort of an artifact of this artificial environment that we're in, that we're bringing into our speech, and it becomes part of the recording, it becomes part of what the audience hears, as opposed to, there's many more things I'd love to share with you, but we'll have to get to some of those another time. Let me wrap up with this thought. So that would be the way to stick the landing, so to speak. But, and I guess the other thing that jumped out at me was that you didn't make any use of visuals. If Andre had been doing this, there might have been little word bubbles floating in from the side in presentation style. And you could have done that. Do I really think that that would have made this speech better? No, because I think we were hanging on your every word. You had identified a topic that we would all like to know about. We would all like to have an opportunity to give a TED Talk. And then if we got that opportunity, we'd probably be a little bit terrified, because if you got the opportunity, you want to nail that opportunity. And so going through that process of talking about how the audience is different, you have to think about that ultimate video audience. I imagine you still have to think about the audience that's in front of you too, because you're still trying to get a reaction out of them. You say something funny, it'd be nice if they laughed and that made it into the recording, right? But, and I think the original purpose of the TED Talks was to have people deliver a really sharp message. Sharp and fairly concise. You know, under 15 minutes is still fairly concise compared to a big keynote speech. But you drew those important contrasts in terms of how you have to prepare, how you have to deliver. It's wonderful, and I learned a lot. General value.
Well, thank you, David. Now, our next evaluator is Andrei Smolenko, and he will be evaluating Kirthikka Devi Venkataram's speech. So please put your hands together for Andrei.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, my fellow online presenters, most importantly, Kirthikka. I just want to congratulate you for using such an interesting subject and without getting really deep into the cultural differences. Somehow you managed to unite us by showing a few examples of how people can be perceived with different times, depending on what they do. We can all relate to that, no matter how culturally different we may be. You show us an example about bringing family into the business meeting and how we can all imagine that and what awkward situation that may be as well. You took us on a journey by showing us how important to learn about our cultures before we engage on a journey together. I really like that. I felt curious and excited, and I was hoping that you could take me on a journey into your own country. I was really looking forward to it, to see, look, I'm from India. This is what happens in India. There's some prejudice about our country. However, they're all not true because we're all human beings. I was really, really hoping about that. maybe a few images of beautiful Indian culture or food, anything comes up. For example, in England, the food number one is curry. In other countries as well, things like that, I think, would make your speech even lovelier. And we would want to know, well, hold on a sec, there's so many things going on. I want to get involved a bit more. I felt really mesmerized by the way you built your speech, and it took you to the message of your speech about the differences. At the same time, what I was hoping to perhaps hear is the main message of your speech repeated maybe a few times. For example, don't mind cultural differences. Let's focus on cultural unity. And having that message throughout the speech and summarizing cultural unity, not the difference, will bring us all together. As a Toastmasters, we have many people from other countries and so on. So in terms of perception, I would focus on the unity, what the culture can bring, because we're all human beings, we all live on the same planet. Overall, it was really well thought speech that I enjoyed. I'm really curious to see your next speech. Taking into account perhaps few little suggestions that I made and continuing with your passion that you bring into your speeches, I would like to hear more. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Well, thank you for that meticulous evaluation. Now, I would like to invite our grammarian, Sherry Blake, to the virtual stage for her report. Please welcome Sherry.
Thank you, Marianne. Again, I was the grammarian for today. The word, and I was also in charge of choosing the word of the day. The word of the day was meticulous, and we had a few people that used it. Joni is the winner 5 times and maybe more. I could have missed some. I used it. Is it Fibian? He used it once. David used it, and Marianne. If I forgot anyone, I'm so sorry. Maybe if you want to raise your hand right now, you can. Oh, so sorry.
I
Yes.
used it in chat.
Oh, okay. And I did see it in the chat, and I'm forgetting the chat does count. And as far as my grammarian report goes, I noticed some good phrases that were used, phrases that I like. So Jim Barber said, another consideration. I like that because you're not telling somebody what to do, you're kind of suggesting it. So I like that phrase. He used it twice. So I think he likes it as well. Fibian, no, not Fibian. David Carr, I liked his phrase, framing device. I liked how he used that. And one correction, which would be for Andre, he said, I was hoping about that. I think probably what you meant to say was, I was hoping for that, or I was hoping that. That's my report. Back to you. General Evaluator.
Thanks, Terry. Thank you very much. Now our watcher, Andre, you're up again. You've been watching?
Yes, yes, Marianne, I have been watching very attentively, and I posted screenshots of how we all look online. It's right there in the chat, so we can see each other again. What I liked about today's meeting, that many of the members used the virtual backgrounds produced by Kirthikka, our Vice President of Public Relations. So Kirthikka, well done, and thank you for that. I would like to see more of that unity in cultures, in our backgrounds. That would be great. One thing I would like, I just can't miss that. And the thing I cannot miss is the virtual backgrounds of Jim Barber. Just made me really curious to see what's behind that. And I think that was meticulously arranged for this meticulously presented meeting. So thank you very much, Jim. And back to you, Marianne.
Thank you so much. Now, do we have a chat monitor today?
Me.
Okay, Andy, please give us your report.
The chat was active, and I happen to have posted a number of things that people might find of value. Many of them came from Pinterest. And the one thing I mentioned earlier was there are 24 TED Talks that can change your life in 2024. And I encourage you to blow that up and see it and then pull those things off. I also posted a number of different approaches to storytelling, since that's some of the things that we do in Toastmasters. And I posted 4 particular methodologies of doing storytelling that could be of use to people. The 6 storytelling tips, for example, the 7 steps to improving your storytelling, Pixar's 22 rules of storytelling, and storytelling presentations. So I put those in the chat that might be of use to you. Remember to save your chat. You go to the top of the chat box, you'll see the 3 dots or an ellipse. Press that and it'll come up with save chat. Click on that and then you'll have the chat saved. That's it for me.
Well, thank you kindly, sir. Sarah Idahan, timers report.
All of our speakers, evaluators were on time. And I put the times in the chat.
Thank you, ma'am.
If you want me to call them out now, I can if you'd like.
I think we have enough time, sure.
Okay. Jim Barber's speech, 7 minutes, 22 seconds. Kirthikka's speech, 7 minutes, 5 seconds. For table topics, Andre, 2 minutes, 11 seconds. Sherry Blake, 1 minute, 1 minute, 59 seconds. Andrew Byrne, 1 minute, 55 seconds. Vivian Joseph, 1 minute, 41 seconds. For the evaluators, David Carr, 3 minutes, 17 seconds. And Andre Smolinka, again, 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Everybody were within time.
Okay, well, thank you, ma'am. Now we're getting on to my general evaluation of the meeting. Our Toastmaster of the day, Joni, did a great job with our theme, evolution of technology. And the word meticulous was used often, so thank you for that, Sherry. Sunny said, do you want every word to resonate, when she was talking about Udly, and I thought that was terrific. She also used a quote, a John Powell quote, communication works for those who work at it, and isn't that why we're here, guys? Sherry loves to inspire people. Let's see. Teresa, I liked when you talked about being a speaker versus a thought leader. I think that's a really interesting contrast to think about. I think we want to aspire not just to be a speaker, but to be a thought leader. That would be terrific. Andre, cultural unity, I thought was a fabulous theme in your speech or in your evaluation. And that is all I have today. So I will give it to Carolina, our vote counter, to announce our winners of the day.
Thank you, Marianne. The winners are Best Evaluator, David Carr. Best Table Topics Speaker, Sherry Blake. And the Best Prepared Speaker, Jim Barber. Congratulations to the winners. Back to you.
And now I will give it to our Toastmaster of the day for her wrap up.
You know that tip about the cat? He didn't hear, and I didn't apply. We've evolved. We've seen how we get through a Toastmasters meeting, and we made it all the way to the end of that meeting. But where do we go when it comes to technology? Who would have thought that there would have been a club of Toastmasters who met on a platform called Zoom? Who would have thought artificial intelligence would be the go-to when you really, really need to speak corporate, but you really, really don't? Who would have thought that everyone would have these little devices that they carry in their pocket that contains more information than we could have possibly dreamed? And who would have believed that if English is your first language, which means you're going to have a hard time learning anything else, There's always Google Translate. See, whoever did that, thank you for that tip. I knew I would have forgotten something. We evolve, we connect. Who knows where technology is headed next? Let's just hope that we remind it of our humanity, and the rules of robotics will always apply. I now return control to the person who just returned control of the meeting, to me, to close out our meeting, our president, Marianne Grady.
Well, thank you, Joni. You did a wonderful job this evening.